expectation of violence started with a solo. I literally went into the studio and just was curious about what would come out of me. You know, I went in, I set forward no expectation for myself and no expectation of movement or anything. I just knew that, you know, there was something that needed to be expressed, and I knew I had to make this piece. So literally I went in by myself and just, you know, started moving. And what came out of me was this series of very truncated, fragmented scenes from my life, essentially. It's a very autobiographical work.
The next three singers are aptly named. In the field of popular music, they're really supreme. Ladies and gentlemen, the Supremes.
Love-hate relationship with West Side Story, and I just saw it for the first time like 2 weeks ago. So I'd never seen it before, but what I knew, my problem with West Side Story was that gangsters don't like jump out and, you know, like classical, like modern dance, jazz or whatever. So that was always a problem that I had with West Side Story. But I've also just had like a sincere love for it. And then also, you know, just the actual story of West Side Story has so much to do with, you know, A versus B, you know, Americans versus Puerto Ricans, a lot of racial issues, a lot of class issues, you know, immigrancy, a lot of things like that, you know, are quite serious actually, you know, that it brings up all that. And so I figured, you know, just let's like pull this moment straight from the musical, you know, and just see what happens.
Parmi mes visions, ma grand-mère, toujours au bord de sa mort, jeune et vierge, non pas elle-même, mais le soir oublié, une ange.
I speak fluent French, so Jaamil and I talked about translating some of his poetry into French. It turns out that it works very well for the piece because we don't really associate the French language with violence, but the French, just as many other European countries and the United States and everyone else, we've invaded and colonized countries, particularly Africa, West Africa, and the Middle East. And everyone there primarily still speaks French, and now it's sort of a thing that we do, but it originally was a form of violence. It was imposed on people.
Vivement comme maintenant. Le passé, j'ai appris, est un signe. Le signe de trois femmes. Une trinité de femmes mortes.
I'm here with Kosoko performance group. Why don't you tell us about the piece that you'll be performing?
The piece really, even though it's called An Expectation of Violence, really I think is that, just an expectation. You never really experience violence in the piece itself. It's more just kind of focuses on the fear and the anxiety and really everything that society has kind of put on humanity as far as like what it means to be human and how we all perceive violence and how we all think violence is just around the corner. And it really heightens kind of awareness of what it means to be involved in violence, and really I think, helps you become aware of where violence is, and it's in everything that we do, from our food to our clothing to the way we interact with our family members and our loved ones. Somewhere down there was a place where lovers never argue about. Ooh, what is there to say?
I was identifying very strongly with just the frustration that was expressed, and it's just nice to see that physical embodiment of that frustration that I think most humans feel at one time or another.
I loved the movement. You know, this movement that I hadn't seen too much of in other dance, and I just felt like it just really transmitted something to me that affected me. I mean, emotionally, there were times when I felt like crying or anxious, but then kind of an energy and a motivation too. So it was a whole mix of feelings and just beauty as well.